Welcome to it, sports fans. From the Bleachers, episode 26. It is a new month, February, in Cape Town, South Africa. It is the Friday show, of course, Friday 5 coming to you today. As well as we're going to talk about football. Of course, quite a crazy week of results in the midweek fixtures. City lost, Chelsea lost, Chelsea were embarrassed. Sarri had a 50-minute meeting with his players, and it's been very interesting what's come out of there. So today we will talk about Pep and Jose. Of course, City are struggling. Is that a surprise? Pep Guardiola, I'll have my thoughts on why I think Pep and Jose Mourinho are more similar than we know. I'll give you my thoughts on that. Secondly, I will ask, should Chelsea fans be panicking about Maurizio Sarri and the situation at Chelsea? I'll give my thoughts on all of that. And of course the result and exactly what I feel Chelsea fans should be feeling. And then lastly, my favorite section, of course, the Friday 5. Today we're going to do the best wing backs that have ever played in the English Premier League. Remember to follow the FTB TV podcast. Podbean, of course, if you've got an Android phone, Podbean is the best. Otherwise, iTunes, or else you can follow us on YouTube. If you are on Facebook, go give us a like, share. It is From the Bleachers TV. You can find us under From the Bleachers TV. It'll just be From the Bleachers is the page, but you can search for From the Bleachers TV. Otherwise, we are on Twitter, Instagram. Go and give us a like, a follow, and keep sharing the content. So that's FTB TV podcast. You can find that on iTunes, or if you've got an Android phone, Podbean is the best for you. That's Podbean. Well, that is the intro. We're going to get straight into it. Pep Guardiola, of course, this week they lost. Manchester City lost to Newcastle 2-1. It's been panic stations. Everybody's going, what is happening? It's unbelievable. What an upset. Oh my goodness, the season they were supposed to, again, roar away with the league. But let me put things to you this way, right? Remember when you used to work at a job, right? And you know the manager either wasn't fair, and you were a little bit younger, so let's say you're like 20. And you knew the manager wasn't fair. I don't know if you've had this, I had it in my life. Or the manager just didn't like you. It's one of the two, you weren't really sure. So like, you know, when you're 20 and you arrive and you might not always be in the best condition, right? Because of the previous night, you may have been doing whatever 20-year-olds are doing between the hours of 10 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. But, you know, in the very same environment, let the cute girl also come into work in the same sort of weary condition that you're in. All she needs to do is kind of bat her eyelids, and you know the manager just crumbles. The old Clive, the manager, would just crumble. Like, hey, you Craig, you go and pack the shirts, and you go to the storeroom until I call you. That's your punishment for coming to work, maybe not feeling so well because of your actions the previous evening. For her, it's like, oh, Melanie, you know what? Let's get a coffee. You look like you need something to boost your energy, right? You ever felt that? Like Melanie just gets all the treatment. Same actions. You've done the same actions. You were both at the same party. You saw her last night. You had a good time with her as well. She was there. You guys were dancing. She comes in. Her head's a little heavy. Your head's a little heavy. But you're in the storeroom. You're packing t-shirts. And she bats her eyelids, and Clive's buying her coffee. Listen, we all do this from time to time in life, right? When you like people, or when people make us feel good, we treat them better. It's simple. We do that. Everybody does it. Right? When people serve our needs, they make us laugh, they're charming, they're good looking, we treat them better. When people make us feel better, we treat them better. Now, you don't have to like it, guys or girls. Okay, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Better looking people just get treated better. That is what it is. I wouldn't know. Most of us wouldn't know. Not everybody's good looking. There's nothing you can do about it. Get over it. People make us feel better, whether it's because they look good, they're charming, they've got charisma. We treat them different. Get over it. It happens. It serves our needs. We don't know what it is. Listen, Man City lost 2-1 to Newcastle this week. And if we're all honest with ourselves, this season hasn't gone according to plan, has it? Not for them. Not by those standards. After 24 games last season, Man City had 65 points. At the very stage we are at, they had 65 points, 70 goals, and a plus 52 goal difference. That is last season. They were ahead by 12 points on the log. After 24 games this season, right, they're on 56 points, which is 9 less than last season. They've only scored 63 goals, which is 7 less than last season. And they've got a plus 44 goal difference, which is 8 less than last season. They've got 4 less points, and they are 4 points behind Liverpool, who are on top this season. Last season they were 12 points ahead of Man United at this very stage. This season they are 4 points behind. So what's happening here? Are Liverpool just sensational? Is it a huge shock? Like Pep in his 3rd season surely should be a well-oiled machine. Everybody knows where they are. He's an unbelievable coach. He's got his whole coaching staff. He's got like half of Catalonia working in Manchester City. It's not a surprise. It's not a surprise at all. If you take a look at the numbers, and I've done that, Pep Guardiola and Jose Mourinho are actually the same guy. Now people will go, what am I talking about? Let me tell you what I'm talking about. We just don't realize, because Pep entertains so much, that people fall in love with the aesthetic and don't look at the numbers. Every pundit and fan keeps telling me how Jose Mourinho only works for 3 seasons. I've never heard it about Pep, but Pep only works for 3 seasons, and it's for the very same reasons. They are the same guy. Pep Guardiola, Jose Mourinho are the same guy. They're both really, really smart. That's very clear. But they're very, very intense, right? And something interesting which they have in common as well is they had unprecedented early success as managers, right? It's never been matched and probably never been done before by any manager, the success they had early. And I'm even including Zinedine Zidane with 3 Champions League titles in a row. I don't think he'll go down in the same sort of vein or be remembered, because these guys won league titles early as well. They won trebles. You know, you can win the Champions League, and Zidane's won 3. I mean, that's phenomenal. But these guys are winning trebles. That's special. That means you're really building a team. It's not just a cup team. Anybody can win a cup. So both these guys have won trebles. Jose's got 2. One with Porto, one with Inter. The other factor, I think, where they're eerily similar, and nobody really talks about it, and I never hear about it in the media, and I haven't really seen it on Twitter anywhere, is that they are both in the pursuit of perfection. People only ever credit Guardiola with that. But Jose is very much the same. Jose wants a perfectly balanced team, but he just bases it on a rock-solid defense, right? His masterpiece, his virtuoso, is undoubtedly the Inter Milan team. They were probably his best balanced team. Chelsea were probably a little bit defense-heavy, right? After they lost Robben, they lost an edge, and then Drogba was carrying the load. And many could say Lampard joined him there. But once Robben left, I think Duff showed that he wasn't ready to be that guy on attack, and they lost a lot of that attacking defense balance. And I think it was the end of Mourinho the first time. He lost that cutting edge. But both guys are absolutely obsessed with perfection. Not kind of perfect, perfection. Inter Milan, Jose's greatest work. Pep's teams, the thing about Pep is every single game and goal feels like he's trying to paint a masterpiece or perform a ballet. Every single goal, every single game. It's a masterpiece, it's a ballet. Listen, it's clear what Pep wants to do. He wants to entertain, but most importantly, he wants to win. But it's clear he wants to entertain as well. He wants to win. Those two don't always go hand in hand, and Pep is relentless in the pursuit of making sure that you entertain and then you win. You can see him living every single pass. He's literally painting his Mona Lisa as it happens. He has instructed these guys. He lives every moment because he's such a control freak. Every game is a masterpiece for Pep. He's involved to every single detail. Listen, the pursuit of perfection has taken both men above any of their contemporaries, right? But it comes at a price. When you seek perfection and you're dealing with human beings, it wears players down mentally. And 3 seasons is all either of these guys could ever really do it. It'll be season 1, you establish the plan. Season 2, the plan flies. Season 3 is when things generally start to wear. Season 1, you establish. Season 2, you're flying because now you've got all your players, you've got the plan, everybody's aware of the intensity levels they'll be working at, and everybody's in sync. But season 3, and we've seen it with both guys, especially now as players are getting more power. I think Jose met his match in Pogba at Man United recently. We saw player power is on the rise. Millennials don't love absolute authority, and both men rule with an iron fist. Do not let Pep's soft-looking nature fool you. Both men rule with an iron fist, and they are both ruthless. One of the greatest strikers Barcelona has ever had, perhaps Barcelona's greatest ever striker, Samuel Eto'o, found that out. His replacement, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, found that out. It is my way or the highway. We're creating a masterpiece, but I will control not only who buys the brush, where you buy the brush, what paint you get it, what price you get it at. He wants to do everything, does Pep Guardiola. And once you're in-house, it's my way or there's the door. Eto'o, one of the greatest. Ibrahimovic, one of the greatest figures, cult figures of the last 15 years in football. Both were shown the door, and there was no thinking about it. David Villa was in, and history was made. So listen, I'll leave out their home jobs, right, where they both were really comfortable at Porto and Barcelona and created history. Let's have a look at Pep's first real major job outside of Barcelona. At Bayern, first season 90 points, second season 79 points, third season 88 points. So we can see a drop from that first season. And listen, the Bavarians never took to Pep, and the tiki-taka was criticized by legends like Beckenbauer, who was saying, why don't these guys just shoot? He's trying to be too perfect. There were all sorts of comments. And by the end of season 3, Pep was done. If you can remember, he looked really, really worn out in that last semi-final loss. He was done. Jose at Chelsea in his first season, 95 points, then 91 points. Of course, did 2 titles back-to-back. And then in the third season, 83 points. He was fired halfway through in the 4th season, but towards the end of that third season, you could already feel that it wasn't working. After 3 seasons, it wasn't working. The players revolted. John Terry in particular, strong reports have come out that he'd worn the dressing room down. Jose was gone 3-4 seasons. Early in the 4th season, he was gone. At Inter Milan, Jose lasted 2 seasons, and the overwhelming memory for me is of Jose walking up the street and Marco Materazzi giving him a hug and bawling his eyes out. But it's just an indication of the intensity that these two men bring, in this particular case, Jose. At Real Madrid, right, he lasted 3 seasons to Jose. But this time the image that lives with me is Ronaldo ignoring Jose Mourinho as they stood next to each other in the tunnel, preparing to be presented to the fans at the end of season presentation of the squad. If you haven't seen it, go and Google it. But to me, that's the type of emotion that Jose had inspired. Ronaldo is about 2 meters in front of him with his back to Jose, and he wants nothing to do with him. That's after 3 seasons at Real Madrid. That is after 3 seasons. Ronaldo was the leader. They wanted nothing to do with Jose. He had worn them down. Listen, both men demand perfection, right? And it's not sustainable, right? The type of intensity they demand, I like to think of it like medicine. It only works in small doses. More than that, it kills you. You can only take both men in small doses. They demand perfection, and they are intense. Both Jose and Pep demand perfection, and they are intense. That is not a good combination. Not if you want to be around for a long time. You want to be around for a good time? Great. Perfection, intensity. This Man City struggles this year are no surprise to me. I had a look at the numbers. 78 points first season, 100 points last season. As I told you, he established it in the first season. It was perfection last season. And even if they win every single game this season, it's going to be 96 points. But they're not going to win every game, are they? They'll get to 87, 88 and probably win the league. I think people must take this seriously. This is Pep Guardiola's last season at Manchester City. The most he's ever done was 4, and it was Barcelona. And even in Barcelona's last season, that was when Mourinho arrived and kicked him out of Spain. He was running on fumes in the 4th season at Barcelona. 3 great seasons by Pep there. The 4th season, he had to take a sabbatical after that. He went to New York for a year, and it was done. So please, don't stop telling me that it's just Jose. This image, just because you don't like Jose Mourinho, the media, the fans, just because you may not like the football, it's not a masterpiece. But both men are the same. They will only, and it's not through any fault of their own, it is their modus operandi. It is too intense. They are smart, they demand perfection, and they want to win. And those 3 things don't go together. Perfection, human beings, and intensity is not a good recipe for the long term. Especially with millennials, they now push back. They now have Instagram pages that are bigger than football clubs, and these 2 managers can't sustain it more than 3 seasons. Just because Pep entertains, don't get it twisted. It's 1, 2, 3, and out. Speaking of out, Chelsea Football Club went and lost 4-0, which was an interesting one. Listen, have you ever been friends with a couple and from the outside they seem dysfunctional? They seem dysfunctional. Alright? And like they're always drinking and drunk in public and fighting in public. And you're like, what the hell is going on there? How have they been together for 10 years? Strangely though, their kids are A students, like A team at school for sports, and they play 3 sports, and they play the piano, and they do ballet. And you're like, what is going on there? You go to their house and it's sparkling clean, the garden's fantastic, everything. They've got mangoes growing and avocados growing in the garden. They've got tomatoes, which they do themselves. And you're like, what is going on here? And it dawns upon you, you know. It dawns upon you. You're like, chaos is the norm for some people. But they just get on with it. Chaos is the norm for some people. Some people cannot function without it. Some people have called it organized chaos. On Wednesday evening, Chelsea suffered a result which they haven't suffered since 1996. That's 23 years ago. A 4-0 loss. I think the most telling moment, though, was once again in the 65th minute when Chelsea were 2-0 down. Maurizio Sarri took off Gonzalo Higuain for Olivier Giroud at 2-0 down. And the chance of "you don't know what you're doing" for the very first time reigned from the stands. The Chelsea fans had enough. Once again, Chelsea finished quite incredibly. A loss without going more offensive. They had 3 defensive midfielders on the pitch again and 1 striker on the pitch. They lost 4-0. No change in shape. They never pressed higher up the pitch. The mentality never changed. They lost 4-0. It was 2-0 in the 65th minute. So there was still half an hour to try and affect this game. Still finished with 3 defensive midfielders, a single striker on the pitch. Listen to me. It's obviously over for Sarri now. It's over for Sarri. It's become a circus. And I think Roman likes entertainment, but he won't have a circus. It's just a matter of when now. It's a matter of when he sacks him, not if he sacks him. This won't be the first manager to be gone within a year. Guys need to settle down. This isn't the first manager to go within a year. Listen, Chelsea fans should not be worried at all. Chaos is the norm at Chelsea Football Club. And Sarri clearly doesn't have plan B, right? He won't make it to June. Like, that's clear. Chaos is not for him. He's drowning. Chaos is not for everybody. Chelsea fans, listen, you can't have it both ways. Right? You cannot call for stability and want the manager gone. That those two things don't go together. You should always want, right? You should always want the underperforming manager gone. Immediately. I said it in November. If anything, the Chelsea fans have been far too patient. Far too patient. Far too patient. Listen, in Roman Abramovich's 16 years in charge, Chelsea have been to the Champions League final twice. They've won it once. Listen, in both seasons, Avram Grant in 2007-2008, in 2011-2012, Roberto Di Matteo got them to the final. They were both caretaker managers. People mustn't forget that. Chelsea have been to the Champions League twice in their history. Both times they were taken there, it was by caretaker managers. They are a John Terry slip away from being 2-2 in the Champions League. Keep in mind, Roberto Di Matteo won the Champions League, and 6 months later he was out of a job. Just gonna let that sink in. That has happened at Chelsea. 2 managers, caretakers, Champions League final. If that's not chaos, 2002 World Cup winning coach Luis Felipe Scolari, Andre Villas-Boas, Roberto Di Matteo himself, Claudio Ranieri, they all share something. As full-time managers of Chelsea, they have never lasted at the helm for more than a year. Ranieri was there for a couple of years, but when Roman arrived, he didn't last a year. Scolari, Villas-Boas, Di Matteo, Ranieri. They all lasted at Chelsea less than a year. Let me tell you why that's phenomenal. Chelsea have had, under Roman Abramovich, 8 full-time managers. Forget about the caretakers and all of that in between. They've had 8 full-time managers. 4 of them, that's 50%, have lasted less than a year. Sarri is about to join that list. It'll be 5 of 9 very, very soon. Yet somehow, since his arrival in 2003, Chelsea, with 5 league titles equal to Man United, an unmatched 6 FA Cup titles, and 3 League Cups, and a Champions League, are England's most successful team. Since Roman Abramovich arrived in 2003, Chelsea are the kings of England. I don't care how you feel about that. I'm telling you what the numbers say. 5 league titles, 6 FA Cups, 3 League Cups, and a Champions League. Nobody's close to that. Nobody's close to that. Not since Roman got in town. The only equivalent they have is Man United and the Premier League title. Listen, when you want to succeed in chaos, you have to adjust. I said it in November. Maurizio Sarri is just too old. And I'm not saying old people can't adjust, but they struggle to adjust more. The mind and ideas are calcified when you're old. He doesn't know another way. His mind has calcified. His ideas have calcified. He had limited success with Napoli. Yes, it was a nice team, but he never won anything. And in chaos, there isn't time to adjust. Sorry, if he could adjust, should have adjusted early, because I saw it in November. I said in November he has to go. But now the fans have seen it. And it's over. Listen, it's been said that chaos is a ladder. Many who try to climb it fail. Maurizio Sarri is done. The chaos will continue. But now is time for another to try to climb the ladder. Arrivederci, Maurizio. Listen, now for my favorite segment on the show, the Friday Five. So I've done strikers, I've done central midfielders, I've done centre backs. This week it is my 5 greatest wing backs that I've ever seen. 5 greatest wing backs the Premier League's ever had. At number 5, in January 2008, Chelsea made a purchase which would go on to probably be the best value for money since Roman Abramovich took over Chelsea Football Club. The man was world-class, centre-back, right-back. But when he arrived, the inconvenience was that John Terry and a certain Ricardo Carvalho combination pushed him to right-back, which he hadn't played before. This man had an incredible engine. He was an absolute tank of a man. Unbeatable in the air, quick on the ground, won 3 Premier League titles. At number 5, Branislav Ivanovic. At number 4, still to this day, I can't help but laugh at his interviews. I'm sorry, it's hilarious. He's one of the only black men on earth who speaks English with a Spanish accent, and he looks genuinely West African. So it sounds hilarious. But what it wasn't hilarious or funny was his sporting ability. And I mean, he's really West African looking, not like Drake kind of black guy. He is an absolute tank of a man, an absolute monster at right back for Arsenal. After a troubled start, his ability to play in midfield, I think, couldn't have matched better with Arsene Wenger's ideas. I think it helped him become an asset in the Invincibles. He was their right back and became an absolute legend. 2 league titles, Cameroon's favourite son at right back for the Arsenal, the Gooners, and at number 4 in my greatest wing backs in Premier League history, Laurent. At number 3, listen, this man has the greatest social media of any footballer ever. He had a huge problem adapting. Remember, he was a part of that Monaco side that got to the 2004 Champions League final. Having had huge problems, though, in English football when he arrived in January 2006. It all clicked in 2007. This guy had incredible, boundless energy, right? And a vertical leap that defies his 5'0" frame. He went on to surely have the biggest family entourage, right? He must have had the biggest family entourage to ever celebrate with players on the field. And he won 5 of those. So we got to see like his whole family. If you haven't seen it, go and Google it. At number 3, my man, he always says he loves this game. At number 3, the third greatest wing back the Premier League has ever seen. He wore number 3 for Manchester United, an absolute legend. Won 5 titles, Patrice Evra. At number 2, there's no flash about this introduction because he doesn't need it. Metronomical. That's all I can say about this guy. He was a metronome. He's got an awesome accent. If you haven't heard him, if you support this football club, that accent is awesome. Comical to some, but I love it. 2-footed, and he seems, in my memory, to have never made a mistake. Quite frankly, boringly brilliant. Boringly brilliant. As I said, metronomical. Boringly brilliant. An Old Trafford legend, 7 titles, and he was crucial in all of them. I've never seen him smile. At number 2, the second greatest wingback to ever do this thing, definitely Man United's greatest ever wingback, Dennis Owen. At number 1, the greatest wingback in the history of Premier League football, a polar opposite from what I've just described. Listen, he's the Leo Messi of wingbacks in Premier League history. Nobody is in this league has ever been close to this guy. He was ahead of his time when he was at his peak. He married a pop star, which made him cool. He cheated on her, which made him hated. He was part of Arsenal's Invincibles, which made him loved. Then he told them he wanted £100,000 a week, which made him hated. He has a special pouch in his pants where he still, I think to this day, has Cristiano Ronaldo, because he had Ronaldo in his pocket every time they played. Quite simply, he is the best one-on-one wing-back defender I have ever seen. Not just in England, in all of football. He is definitely the greatest one-on-one defender English football has ever seen, and that's not close as a wing-back. 3 Premier League titles. He was quite simply a wizard at left back, part of the Invincibles back 4 as well. He is a legend. He's one of the only players, he's probably the only player, I would have to say, in English football who is a certified, bona fide legend at 2 massive clubs. There's nobody else who's a genuine legend at 2 massive clubs. Well, he's a legend at one big club, and the other club is Arsenal. His name is Ashley Cole. He is the greatest wingback, bar none, the Premier League has ever seen. Friday 5 at number 5 was Branislav Ivanovic. At number 4 was Laurent. At number 3 was Patrice Evra. At number 2 was Dennis Owen. And at number 1, the rock star, the greatest, the GOAT, Ashley Cole. That is from the bleachers for today. What an awesome weekend of Premier League football. We will be back on Monday. The FTB TV podcast available on Podbean if you've got an Android phone. Otherwise, iTunes and YouTube. And then you can go and check out the FTB TV podcast on From the Bleachers TV on Facebook. But for now, that's it. I will see you again on Monday. That was the Friday 5. Thank you very much for joining us. Have an awesome weekend of sport. And remember, the Super Rugby season is upon us.